The movie opens with Brent driving a car, his father sitting beside him. They chat casually during the ride, but suddenly, a boy covered in blood stumbles into the middle of the road. Brent swerves to avoid him, and the car crashes violently into a tree. They manage to save the boy's life, but Brent's father doesn't survive. This tragic accident leaves a deep scar on Brent's life. 6 months later, Brent is a shadow of his former self. Haunted by guilt, he falls into depression. He blames himself for his father's death and turns to drugs for temporary escape. He even wears a razor blade on a necklace, using it to cut his hand as a form of self-punishment whenever the pain overwhelms him. At college, a shy girl named Lola Stone nervously approaches Brent. She asks him to go to the prom with her, but Brent gently turns her down. He already has plans to go with his girlfriend, Holly. Later, Holly drops Brent off at home. Before leaving, Brent casually tells her about Lola's prom invitation. Holly doesn't seem bothered by it, and they part ways. Inside the house, Brent's mother asks him, "How are you going to the prom?" Brent replies, "I'll go with Holly in her car." But his mother immediately disagrees. She's still emotionally shattered by her husband's death and is overly protective now, especially when it comes to cars. She insists Brent should go in a hired car with a professional driver. She believes it's safer, and deep down, she still thinks Brent was responsible for the accident. Feeling suffocated by her constant control and blame, Brent snaps and storms out of the house. Taking his dog along, he walks to a steep, rocky cliff, a place where he considers ending everything. He stands at the edge, lost in thought, tears filling his eyes as the weight of guilt crushes him. But something stops him. He sits down instead, pulls out his music player, puts on his headphones, and lets the music drown out the pain for a while. After a while, Brent's phone rings. It's his mother calling. He's just about to answer it when someone sneaks up from behind and knocks him unconscious. Brent is thrown into a pickup truck by the attacker, and they drive off. Meanwhile, Brent's mother reaches the same tall, light, steep rock. She knows this is where he often goes when he's upset. She searches the area desperately, but there's no sign of him. On the other side, Holly arrives at Brent's house, dressed up for prom. She knocks on the door just as Brent's mother returns home, panic in her eyes. "Where is Brent?" she asks anxiously. But Holly is just as confused. She hasn't seen him since earlier. Growing more worried, Brent's mother immediately calls their neighbor, Officer Paul, who's also a local cop. She tells him Brent is missing, but at first he doesn't take it seriously. Brent has a habit of disappearing when he's upset. However, Paul changes his tone when she mentions something else. Their family dog has been attacked, beaten so badly it's barely alive. Holly is on her way to take the dog to the hospital, but sadly, it dies on the way. We then cut to the same pickup truck that took Brent. On the road, the driver stops to collect a dead animal lying on the street. Then the truck pulls into a house we've never seen before. Inside the house are Lola Stone and her father, Brent's kidnappers. Lola is in her room, and her father walks in holding a prom dress. She starts putting it on, shockingly right in front of him, while he watches her with an unsettling stare. Meanwhile, Brent slowly regains consciousness. He finds himself dressed up and tied to a chair in what looks like a twisted prom setup. Across from him sit Lola and her father, smiling like it's a celebration. Also in the room is an older woman named Bright Eyes, who has a strange, emotionless expression and a scar on her forehead. Brent tries to escape, but he's tied down tightly. The house is decorated like a prom dance venue, complete with lights, decorations, and a table set for dinner. It becomes clear Lola kidnapped Brent after he turned down her prom invitation. She wanted her own version of the prom night, and she was going to make it happen, no matter what. Suddenly, she injects a needle filled with peroxide directly into Brent's throat, damaging his vocal cords, making sure he can't scream for help. Eric, her father, then starts taking photos of the three of them, Brent, Lola, and Bright Eyes, posing as if they're a happy family. But it's obvious that Lola doesn't like Bright Eyes. As they sit down to eat, Bright Eyes stays quiet. When she doesn't respond, Lola tries to force feed her, pushing food into her mouth roughly. It's clear now, Bright Eyes isn't Lola's mother, and something is very, very wrong in this house. It turns out that Bright Eyes, or Brettise, is not part of the family at all. She's just another one of their captives, and it becomes clear when Lola mistreats her, pushing food into her mouth aggressively. The poor woman, expressionless and silent, has clearly been broken after years of abuse. After forcing food on Brettise, Lola turns her attention to Brent. She grabs a piece of chicken and tries to force feed him next. But Brent keeps his mouth shut, refusing to give in. With a twisted smile, Lola mocks him by quoting the famous KFC line, "It's finger-licking good." But Brent stays silent, showing no reaction. Frustrated, Lola looks at her father. Eric slams a hammer down on the table with a deafening thud, just inches away from Brent's hand. The message is clear: comply or suffer. Terrified, Brent nods reluctantly. Lola leans in, holding out her finger, and with no choice left, Brent licks her finger, his face twisted in disgust. Then Brent tells them he needs to use the bathroom. But instead of letting him go, Lola hands him an empty glass and tells him to go right there. But Brent isn't actually in need. He's stalling, trying to find any opportunity to escape. Eric walks over and brings the hammer close to Brent's face. With a cold grin, he says, "I'm the one who killed your dog with this and a nail." He then shows Brent a rusty nail, threatening to drive it into him if he doesn't urinate within 10 seconds. Both Lola and Eric start counting down together. Panicking, Brent gives in, but the moment he finishes, he suddenly kicks Lola, knocking her to the floor. In that split second, Brent breaks free and makes a run for it. He stumbles out of the house and hides beneath the same pickup truck he was kidnapped in. Eric quickly gives chase and jumps into the truck. He reverses it slowly, trying to spot Brent beneath it. Just as Brent is spotted, he climbs up a nearby tree in a desperate attempt to escape. Eric slams the truck into the base of the tree in rage. Suddenly, Lola arrives, furious and wild, and starts throwing stones at Brent along with her father. One stone hits Brent on the head, and he falls from the tree, unconscious. They drag him back inside. This time, to stop him from escaping again, they stab knives through his feet and strap him to a chair. The pain is unbearable, and Brent can no longer move. Meanwhile, Officer Paul is still searching for Brent. He returns to the High Rock area and discovers Brent's phone and earphones lying abandoned. He brings them to Holly and Brent's mother, raising their fear even more. Back at the Nightmare House, Lola brings out a scrapbook and places it in front of Brent. As he flips through the pages, his blood runs cold. The book is filled with photos of other victims, young boys who came before him. It's clear now, this isn't the first time she's done this. Brent is just the latest victim in a long, horrifying line. Captivity had always been at the heart of their twisted past. Lola's insane father had been kidnapping young boys for her for years, offering them as if they were gifts. She would first play with them, pretending it was love, and then, without remorse, kill them. Brent realizes the horrifying truth. If he had agreed to go to the prom with her, his fate would have been the same. Lola proudly points to a page in her scrapbook and tells Brent about a boy named Timmy Valentine, one of her past victims. Timmy, however, had managed to escape, and Brent suddenly connects the dots. Timmy was the same bloodied boy who had run in front of his car the night his father died. The guilt Brent had carried for so long suddenly shifts. His father's death wasn't his fault. It was Lola and her father, the real monsters behind the tragedy. And now, another horrifying realization. Timmy is the son of Officer Paul Valentine. Brent had unknowingly stepped into the same trap. In the scrapbook, Brent's name is listed as the victim of this year. One photo space is already filled, but there's still a blank spot next to it. They need Brent's photograph to complete the page. Lola gets closer and begins carving into Brent's skin. Her father watches, nodding in approval like it's a cherished ritual. With a blade, she carves a heart into Brent's chest, etching the letters L and S. It's her mark, Lola Stone. She's been carving that same symbol into all her victims since childhood. To intensify the pain, they pour salt into the fresh wound, and Brent screams in agony. Then, pretending it's a real prom, they start the crowning ceremony. Brent is forced to blow a whistle toy, signaling the moment Lola is chosen as the prom queen. She places the crown on her head, beaming like a pageant winner. Eric clicks another photo to mark the occasion. Now it's time for the dance. Brent, still stabbed through the feet, watches helplessly as Lola's father throws confetti over them. But something's wrong. Lola doesn't enjoy dancing with Brent. Disappointed, she turns to her father instead. As they dance together, Lola whispers that her father is her real prince. Their disturbing bond is more twisted than Brent ever imagined. Suddenly, they shift their focus to another horror. They cut open the animal they had picked up earlier and prepare for the next part of their sadistic plan. They slide open a trapdoor in the floor, and from the darkness below, strange, animal-like noises echo out. Eric brings over a drill from a nearby toolbox and hands it to his daughter. She places it on Brent's head and begins to drill into his skull. It's the same kind of hole Brent had seen on Bright Eyes, Brettize's forehead. Once the hole is made, they're not done. Lola prepares a kettle of boiling water, planning to pour it into the hole. Doing so will destroy Brent's brain, leaving him like Brettize, a living shell, a forgotten prisoner in the basement. But before they can finish, they pause. The hole isn't wide enough. Eric picks up the drill again to expand the opening. Just as he leans in, Brent slashes him with a razor blade, the same blade he wore as a necklace, the one he'd secretly used to free his hands. Seizing the moment, Brent pulls the knives from his feet, howling in pain, but powered by rage. He then attacks Eric, stabbing him repeatedly and finally pushing him toward the basement door. As Eric falls in, a crowd of disfigured feral people crawl out from the darkness. They devour Eric alive, screaming and tearing him apart. Brent watches in horror, but before he can move, Lola shoves him down into the basement too. After Brent throws Eric into the basement and is pushed in himself, Lola notices her father's twitching body, moving as if he's still alive, possessed by madness, even in death. She slams the basement door shut and leaves Brent in the darkness below. Inside, Brent finds a torch and turns it on. The beam of light reveals a horrifying scene. A group of disfigured feral people charge at him, all past victims of Lola and her father, now turned into monsters. But Brent fights back. With fury and desperation, he manages to kill every one of them, finally standing alone among a heap of old, dry bones, a sick monument to years of horror. Meanwhile, Lola Stone kills Brettize, the girl who was once like Brent, another broken soul they'd turned into a puppet. On the outside, Holly remembers something Brent had told her, that Lola Stone had invited him to the prom. Realizing the danger, she informs Officer Paul Valentine. He immediately races to Lola's house. When he arrives, he peers through the window and sees blood smeared across the floor. Breaking the door open, he enters with his gun drawn. In the basement, Brent hears something, footsteps above. He calls out, making noise, praying someone will hear him. Paul hears it. He rushes to the door leading to the basement and begins to open it. Suddenly, Lola attacks him with a heavy tool, knocking him to the ground. She grabs his pistol, but before she can use it, Brent appears and wrestles the gun from her. He fires multiple shots at her, but she's fast, dodging every bullet. Lola, with a wild grin, looks at Brent and says coldly, "Now I'm going to your house to kill your mother, just like I killed your father. Then I'll finish off Holly too." She storms off on foot, determined. She doesn't know how to drive, but her madness gives her momentum. Brent, bleeding and broken, knows he has to stop her. He comes up with an idea. Using the pile of dead bodies like a ladder, he climbs out of the basement, gasping for air as he reaches freedom. Meanwhile, Holly is also heading to Lola's house, hoping to find Brent. Their paths cross, literally, on a lonely road. Lola sees Holly's car approaching. She suddenly hurls her scrapbook onto the windshield, forcing Holly to hit the brakes hard. Lola jumps into the car and violently attacks Holly, clawing and swinging wildly. Holly tries to escape, and at that moment, Brent arrives, driving Paul's car at full speed, his face filled with determination and rage. As Brent swerves to avoid hitting Holly, he nearly crashes, but he manages to save her. Lola, standing behind the car, gets struck hard. Holly jumps into Brent's car and gasps when she sees his bloody condition. But before they can relax, they notice Lola again, crawling toward them, bones shattered, body broken, but still alive and snarling like a monster. Without hesitation, Brent throws the car into reverse and slams into her at full speed. The impact crushes her completely, ending her reign of terror. With the nightmare finally over, Brent returns home to his mother, wounded but alive. The film ends as he steps inside, finally safe, finally free.